Listen to that. If you read the title, you know that today's episode of Coffee and the Word is stop, pause, and breathe. Have you ever really noticed how we rarely ever stop nowadays? Life is seemingly all green lights. Everything is be here, do this, answer this text, make this call, rush to the next appointment. And somewhere we forget to breathe. I like to try to allow myself, when I get to the office, to either in the office or even coming out here into the fellowship hall, before I start my day after I've dropped my kids off, to just breathe. I remember standing in line at the grocery store one day, scrolling through my phone. The lady in front keeps putting her stuff onto the conveyor belt. The checkout girl, clink, clink, clink. And I remember it hit me. I don't even allow myself to be still anymore. Even when I'm sitting in line, even in the seconds of downtime, I'm filling it with noise. Maybe you've noticed it too, but maybe we've become so used to this constant motion that stopping feels uncomfortable. But think about this. Psalm 46, verse 10, God says, "Be still and know that I am God." That little verse carries so much weight. It doesn't say hurry faster, then you're going to know that I'm God. It says be still. Stop. Pause. Breathe. Here's the problem. Busyness doesn't just tire our bodies. It wears down our very souls. Where every moment is filled when we're allowing ourselves to be overloaded by everything, we don't have space to hear God's voice. But God built pauses into his creation. He created day and night, work and Sabbath, that idea of rest. I mentioned that Sunday, Sabbath was created to rest with the people you cared for. Breathing in, breathing out. Even our bodies remind us that we weren't made to run nonstop. Think about the last time you were stressed and someone said, just take a deep breath, and you did, and guess what? It helped. Why? Because when you stop and you breathe, you allow yourself to reset. What if we treated our spiritual life in the same way? What if instead of rushing past every single moment, we allowed space to stop, to pause, and to breathe, and to breathe in God's presence? So here's my challenge for you this week. Find one intentional pause each day. Maybe it's turning off the radio or the podcast or the audiobook that you're listening to on your way to work. Maybe during lunch, it's setting your phone down. Maybe it's just praying. Maybe it's just sitting quietly and reading scripture for 5 minutes. And when you pause, don't just fill it with words. Just breathe. Be still. And let stillness remind you that God is still God. You see, in Matthew 11:38, Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest." And that invitation isn't just for someday down the road, it's for today. So, families, friends, in the middle of your heavy and busy week, don't forget, stop, pause, and breathe. Because in those quiet moments, I promise you, you're going to find that God is closer than you could ever imagine. Now, with the Lily's Chapel Church of Christ, this has been Coffee and the Word. God bless.